In front of me here, I have so many different microphones and recording devices because for the last few days, I have been testing out Rode's new Wireless Pro system. This is by far the best value with the most features, I think, of any wireless microphone out right now, and it's only $400, which is incredible when you consider what it actually comes with. However, it's not perfect. I have found that for at least me personally and the cameras that I have and the editor that I'm using, I will not be using timecode because it's far more complicated than I expected. Let's very quickly talk about what comes in the box with Rode's system here. You're going to get the receiver, which you can plug into a camera or a computer. It's got a color screen on it, and this is the device that's going to receive the signal from the two transmitters that come in the box. Each one of these transmitters has a microphone built in, and this system allows you to either clip it to your shirt, or it also comes with magnets, which allow you to basically place it anywhere on a shirt, which is super cool. And what's also exciting about this system is it comes with two wired lavs as well. And for the first time ever, this now has a screw lock system, so you can press it in and then rotate it, and it's not going to pull out anymore. I was very nervous about using lavs with the older Rode system as well as DJI's system because if your subject just twisted a little bit, this could easily pull out. That's not going to be a problem anymore. Now let's quickly talk about these lavaliers because they're kind of strange. Instead of having the actual microphone on the top, they're on the side, and Rode claims that this is gonna make it sit more flush on your shirt or something. I don't like this. This makes me very uncomfortable because this spins very freely in the clip, which means this is something that I'm always going to have to worry about. And this clip just easily falls off. And honestly, my biggest fear was that this was going to sound the best when the microphone was pointed away from the subject because my voice is coming down and hitting the microphone like this. And what happens if this rotates around backwards and faces towards your chest? So I did that test and I learned the exact opposite was true. This is what the lav mic sounds like with the microphone pointed out. This is what the lav mic sounds like with the microphone pointed towards my chest. So I don't know about you guys, but I thought it actually sounded better when it was facing my chest, which I think is super strange. But either way, I don't feel very comfortable having a lavalier mic that can change sound so quickly just by twisting it and having the ability to twist it so easily. The included windscreens that come are also horrible as well when it comes to fit. I mean, these things just, they don't hold tight at all. And we always have a problem with these things falling off when we're recording somebody. They get bumped or the wind blows them or somebody pulls it through their shirt and these things get stuck in their shirt. This is one of the worst fitting windscreens I have ever used in my life. I was sure I was doing something wrong. I went online, I read about this for an hour, I watched video reviews of people talking about this. I haven't heard anyone complain about it. And I don't think I'm doing anything wrong because it also comes with one of these standard foam screens here, and this doesn't stay on either. Keep in mind that this is a universal connection, so any lavalier will work. My personal favorite lavalier is Sennheiser's MKE2. I like all of the attachments that I've purchased for that, and that lav works perfect with this system. The Wireless Pro system now comes with its own charging case, which is fantastic. However, DJI still has an advantage in terms of size and ergonomics. DJI's mics and transmitters snap in by pressing them straight down and they connect with a magnet. And with the Rode system, because they're square, I'm constantly having to look for this USB port and then you have to press it straight down. It's slightly slower. There's a USB jack on the back to charge everything up, including the battery that's inside the case, but it will also connect over to your cell phone or over to a computer so you can go into the menu and change more of the features with these microphones. Now, quickly talking about settings and UI and everything, the Rode system is slightly frustrating because to change many of the features, you have to plug the Rode system into your smartphone and then connect it with a wire. And then there's a few features that they won't let you change on the phone, and then you have to plug it into a laptop. And so if you're not traveling with your laptop everywhere and you want to make a specific change to these microphones, you're out of luck. So I personally don't think Rode's system is quite as good as DJI's, which has a built-in touchscreen that I believe has all of the options built onto this little bitty receiver. Now let's talk about audio quality. For the first test, let's do a comparison with the built-in microphone and the included lavalier mic that Rode gives you. Do an audio test with the built-in microphone versus the lav mic. Can you hear any difference at all? Do an audio test with the built-in microphone versus the lav mic. Can you hear any difference at all? So these sound more similar than I expected them to. I feel like the built-in microphone might have a little bit more highs. The lavalier mic sounds a little bit smoother. I think it's going to come down to personal preference as to which one of these microphones you prefer. Now let's listen to all three different manufacturers. Let's do a quick audio test on each one of these mics. Which one do you think sounds best in my office here? Let's do a quick audio test on each one of these mics. Which one do you think sounds best in my office here? Let's do a quick audio test on each one of these mics. Which one do you think sounds best in my office here? I think first place is kind of a toss-up between the Rode's built-in microphone or the Sennheiser MKE2 microphone. Once again, I feel like Rode's microphone has more highs and Sennheiser's microphone sounds a little bit smoother. But when I compare both of these microphones to DJI's, I feel like DJI is missing a little bit of clarity, and to me personally, I feel like DJI comes in a very clear third place. Now let's talk about range and reliability. If you guys remember a video I made comparing DJI's mics to Rode's and to Sennheiser's a month or so ago, I showed you where this microphone actually failed me on a real shoot where I was very close to my subject, and I have no idea what went wrong. And after that video was released, Sennheiser reached out to me and they said, we want to get you on a call with one of our engineers. I had an hour-and-a-half long call. I learned a ton. He was super nice. It was great. And he didn't say I did anything wrong, but he gave me a list of things that could have gone wrong, that could have caused this microphone to fail. And after learning all of these new things, he said, I want you to go out and do another range test, because he was sure that the Sennheiser system with its longer wavelength that it's communicating on is going to be far more reliable over a long distance and in busy areas. And so I was excited to do this test myself with this newfound knowledge. So I went out to the beach with all of these microphones. I put all of the microphones on the front of my body. He also told me don't let the antenna touch my wet skin if I'm sweaty outside. That will kill the range. So I put it on top of my shirt, and I'm wearing this one on my belt, but it's in my front, and the other two I'm wearing on my collar here. And I just started walking away from the camera because I wanted to see how far each of these microphones could go, and I was absolutely shocked by this test. Each one of these microphones failed in almost the exact same place when I was walking away from the camera. That's gonna be blocking the signal from each of these microphones. That's gonna be blocking the signal from each of these microphones. Keep in mind that my body is blocking the signal from all of these transmitters as I'm walking away. But when I turn around, all of them come back to life and start working immediately. Right now, I'm already very far away. Right now, I'm already very far away. Right now, I'm already very far away. So I kept going farther and farther. And when I turned away from the camera, I would lose signal. And when I turned back to the camera, the mics would start working again. Now, after my phone call with Sennheiser, I was 100% sure that the Sennheiser system was going to have a longer range line of sight than the other two. He explained the science of how it works and just how big these antennas are and everything, so I was sure this was going to work, and I was absolutely wrong. The Sennheiser system was the very first to stop working, even when it had direct line of sight. At this point, I can no longer see the camera. So I kept walking further and further, and I didn't know if it was working or not. I was the only one doing the test. And I can't believe the Rode and the DJI mics were able to work over this long of a distance over salt water. It's absolutely crazy. You wanna go home, buddy? My son is not enjoying this test. You wanna go home, buddy? My son is not enjoying this test. Now, over this distance, this audio is not usable. You can hear crackles and hisses from both of the microphones, but both of these microphones have internal recording. So you can plug either one of these mics in and retrieve the audio from either of these mics when you get back to the computer, and you'll have clean audio no matter how far away you are from the receiver. And I don't know if you've picked up on this, but have you noticed how bad the Rode mic sounds in this test? My son is not enjoying this test. Well, I learned after a million more tests that the cable I was using to plug this mic into my F6 recorder had some sort of connection issue, and I was losing a ton of bass. So I plugged this in, I retrieved the audio directly off the unit itself, and here is what it should sound like. You wanna go home, buddy? My son is not enjoying this test. You wanna go home, buddy? My son is not enjoying this test. One huge advantage that Rode has over DJI is that this thing can record internally with 32-bit float recording, which means you can no longer clip your audio. So no matter how loud your subject gets, you're going to get clean audio every single time. Now, I'm super happy this has internal 32-bit recording, that's fantastic, but in a perfect world, I'd never have to use it, right? Downloading these separate audio clips and then syncing them up in post is a pain in the butt. So if I can get clean audio into my camera 100% of the time, that would be even better. And Rode has offered 3 different gain assist options, which help regulate the audio level going into your camera so that you don't clip audio even when it's going into your camera. Here's what it sounds like when gain assist is turned off. Right now we have the gain set to manual on both of these microphones, and I'm going to get really loud. Check 1, 2. As you can tell, when I get loud, I start clipping and it sounds horrific. The next level up is called dynamic. It's a medium level of squelching, so if you start to get loud, it's going to automatically lower the volumes for you. What does it sound like? Does it sound any different? Let's get really loud. Check, 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 1, 2, 1, 2. And finally, there's an auto setting, which as far as I know is like a high setting, which is going to give it the most latitude for changing the output of that audio level in case your subject gets really loud. Now let's get really loud. Check 1, 2, check, 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 1, 2. You can still hear a hint of clipping, especially at the beginning of those loud notes when I'm kind of shocking the system. But for me personally, for what I do, like YouTube videos and stuff, that's totally fine. And remember, if I was doing something super important, I have that flawless audio saved automatically on each of the transmitters as well. Now it's time to talk about the final feature and the one that you're probably most excited about. I know it was the one I was most excited about, and that is time code. For the first time ever, Rode's microphones have time code built in, which means in theory, you should be able to record into the camera with these microphones while also recording internally on these transmitters. You should be able to download that super high quality audio from each one of the transmitters and then sync it up automatically using time code in whatever editor you use. In theory, that's what you should be able to do. Well, after days of research and testing and trying to learn all about this, I have found that for at least me personally and the cameras that I have and the editor that I'm using, I will not be using time code because it's far more complicated than I expected. Let me try to simplify this as easily as I can. We have this clock that's always running on this receiver here, and we need to sync this clock with the clock in our camera. And there's 2 different ways to do that. You can jam it into the camera, which means you're going to plug it in with a cable into some sort of data port into the camera. Some cameras allow you to do this with an audio port as well. And then whatever clock is running on this is going to be copied over to the camera. Now over time, there's going to be drift. So in many cases, like after 4 hours or something, you're going to start losing frames. And so it's still going to require that you sync it up when you get into post afterwards, but it's going to be super, super close. So that could still be super helpful. But after tons of research, I learned that my cameras, the Sony a7S III and the Sony a7 IV, they don't have time code that works like that. And that was super confusing to me because if you go into the menu, there's a ton of stuff about time code, but they don't allow time code jamming. So that brings me to the second way we can get time code into our footage, and that's using audio. We can tell this little transmitter here to send clean audio to the left side, but then on the right side, send an audio signal to transfer the time code, and it sounds like this. Now there's 2 problems with doing it that way. One, if I'm interviewing 2 different people and each one is wearing one of these microphones, the audio is going to be merged into a single channel. And of course that would be a massive problem if one person is louder than the other or one person coughs while the other one's talking and you want to be able to mute that cough out. There's just so many things that I do when I have 2 mics running at the exact same time and I want control over each microphone individually. You would lose that ability. Now of course you would gain that back when you downloaded each one of the audio clips from each one of the transmitters and then manually put it into your timeline and everything, but again, for what I do, I'm looking for the fastest, most reliable system, and so I definitely don't want to complicate my workflow by having to separately download audio every single time I record a video. The other huge issue is that I'm an Adobe Premiere user, and currently Adobe Premiere cannot read timecode out of an audio signal, which was shocking to me. As far as I know, Final Cut Pro can't do this either, and the only editor that currently can is DaVinci Resolve. But even if my camera and my editor did work with timecode, I still wouldn't use it because to make it work, you have to set your exact frame rate. And on almost every shoot I do, I'm constantly jumping between 24 and 60 frames per second, and the only way to change it is to plug it into your phone. There's no way I could remember to do that, and I don't see an option for 60 frames per second anyway. So the bottom line is, I was super excited that these microphones have timecode, and then after days of trying to mess with it, I've realized I will probably never use timecode. All right, in conclusion, what are my final thoughts? Once again, quickly to touch on the Sennheiser system, I really was expecting this to do better now that I learned more about this system, and I was shocked to realize that it was still the most unreliable microphone. And of course, this microphone system is double or triple the price. It's triple the price with the actual Lav that I have on it. And it doesn't have internal recording, which is insane. So it's, for me, the most unreliable, and it doesn't have that backup safety file that the other two microphones do. Comparing Rode's versus DJI system, I don't think there's any debate anymore. I mean, the king of value right now and features is the Rode system. It's just going to come down to how many of those features are you actually going to use. Are you going to use the 32-bit internal float recording? Are you going to be using the timecode? I thought I was, and then I realized I'm not, so it's really not a feature that's important to me anymore. It's so crazy that Rode's system for just $400 comes with 2 lav mics, but if you're the type of person that doesn't want to use a lav mic and you would prefer to just clip these microphones on your shirt, there's no doubt that Rode's microphone is significantly smaller and lighter, and it fits on shirts more easily. I have problems with Rode's system flipping over or flipping like this on the inside and then blocking the microphone. It's not perfect with DJI's system, but it's definitely better just because it's smaller and lighter. So I'll still recommend DJI to anybody, but if you're looking for the best of the best, there's no doubt Rode is currently king.